Friends is one of my most favorite shows ever, and when I heard the news about Matthew Perry passing, it made my heart hurt, and I was just so sad because I love all the actors and characters from Friends. Friends is just such an iconic and timeless show. I still rewatch the whole series all the time just because it never gets old and it's always enjoyable. So in today's video, I decided I wanted to do a Friends inspired mani just to pay a little bit of tribute. CN Designer Dips just released a few new collections on November 1st, one of them being this new Chasing Waterfalls collection, and the colors are so gorgeous. If you are a teal lover, this collection is for you, and I was dying to use it, so I'm going to use these, a couple of these colors at least, in today's mani. As well as I am going to use this stamping plate that I got from Manitude. And oddly enough, the timing kind of worked out because I got this maybe a month or two ago, but I decided to set it aside and concentrate on my Halloween manis. So my plan was always that once my Halloween manis were done, I was going to do a Friends inspired mani using this plate because, like I said, Friends is one of my most favorite shows. So the timing actually kind of works out because Halloween is now over. And then, of course, with the news about Matthew Perry, it just kind of worked out to where this would be my Friends tribute mani. Before I get into my mani, I just want to quickly show you the swatches of these dips in the Chasing Waterfalls collection because they are just drool worthy. The two colors from the Chasing Waterfalls collection that I'm going to be using for today's mani are Nirvana and Detour. And then I'm also going to be using Forever Young from a previous collection. And if you're familiar with Friends, you probably know where I'm going with this color. And I don't do this often, but I decided to use gel method for this mani, so I'm using my CN Designer Dips gel base and gel top coat. I love using gel method so I can take my time, but my preferred method is actually using dip liquids just because I prefer the strength of dip liquids. But I wanted to change it up and do something a little bit different, so I decided to just reach for my gels. So I'm going ahead with my gel base and I'm applying a thin, even layer to my entire nail. And you can see I'm being really careful not to get any of that gel on my skin. Gel on your skin can lead to gel allergies, which I don't want, so I'm just taking my time. I'm being really careful. I'm making sure I've got my entire nail covered. I'm just slowly working my way around my cuticle area. If I do happen to get any gel on my skin, I want to make sure that I'm cleaning that up prior to curing. So once I've got the layer of gel base on, I'm going to go ahead and pour over my powder. So I'm pouring into my Chaos Gemerald by Chaos Concepts. And I don't want to dip the wet gel into the powder because it can get displaced and move around that wet gel base and get on your skin. So it's best when you're using gel method to pour over. And you can see it still looks a little wet, so that all the powder I poured over was fully absorbed. So I'm just going to pour over more powder just to make sure I get more even coverage. Once I feel like I have enough powder, I'm going to go ahead and tap off the excess, and then I want to make sure that I'm cleaning up my cuticle area and sidewalls just to make sure I don't have any gel on my skin because I don't want to cause an allergy. So I'm really cautious about this. You can use a precision tool, which is what I'm using from CN Designer Dips, or you can use an orange wood stick or a toothpick, whatever you want to use. And I did decide it was still looking a little bit wet, which is fine. I could have cured it, but I just wanted to pour over a little bit of powder. And then you can see here, I kind of laid my finger flat into the powder, which you can do. You just have to do that really softly and really carefully if you're using gel. So I cured that for a full 30 seconds, and then now I'm going to go in with my second layer. A 30-second cure was sufficient for my first layer because this is a lighter color, but if I were working with a darker color, I would probably do 60 seconds or more. Black dip powders or super opaque dark dip powders are notorious for not working well with gel method because the light can't penetrate the opaque powder. So you just want to be really cautious of that. Gel method is really better for sheerer or lighter colors. So for my second layer, I am applying a thin, even layer of gel base to my entire nail, and because I want to avoid my skin, you can sort of see with my index finger, I'm pulling away the skin at my sidewalls to avoid getting any gel base on my skin. And I actually do this with using dip liquids as well because I don't want to get any liquids on my skin. So I'm just kind of pulling back that skin while I'm applying to that area just to make sure. And then once I'm happy with the coverage, I'm going to pour over my powder. And once again, I may do this a few times just to make sure that the gel base is fully covered. So if it looks a little wet, I may pour over more powder just to get it to be more coverage and fully absorbed. If you're comfortable and you're not clumsy like me, for your second layer, you actually don't have to cure, but I don't trust myself to not bump my finger and make ridges or bumps in my nail. So when I am happy with the coverage of the second layer, I'm just going to give it a flash cure, so 10 to 15 seconds, and then I will move on to my other nails. But I give it a flash cure so it won't move, so that if I accidentally bump it, it's not going to cause damage to the dip powder that I just applied because I just don't trust myself. I ended up doing Forever Young on my pinky as well, but I actually did that off camera because I forgot that that's what I wanted to do. So I poured my powder back in my jar and I put it away, and then it occurred to me, oh wait, I still need that. So if I was thinking about it, I could have just done my thumb and pinky at the same time, which is what I would recommend. It just didn't occur to me at the time. The other solid I'm going to be using is Nirvana, and that's going to go on my index and middle finger. And because they're both going to be the same colors, and I like to do one color at a time, this is the advantage of gel method. So I'm going to apply gel base both to my index and middle finger, and then I will pour over the powder so I can do multiple nails at one time, which is kind of a time saver to be able to do that rather than, if you're using dip base, your dip base is air dry, so you can't do two nails at a time because by the time you finish your second nail, your dip base would probably have dried and you don't have time to dip in or pour over the powder because your dip base is already dry. While I'm continuing with my process, let's take some time to talk about Friends and Matthew Perry. So this is probably really dating myself, but Friends came out, I believe I was a freshman in high school, which is crazy to think about. That was like, what, almost 30 years ago that I think it came out. I think it was 1994, which I still to this day rewatch the series pretty often. So whenever I don't have something new to watch, that's kind of like my go-to to rewatch. And the fact that it still holds, that it's still relevant, that it's just a timeless show to me, and I always enjoy watching it. But I do know that like a year or so ago, Matthew Perry had done an interview and he had said that more than likely he would be remembered for Friends, but he'd like to be remembered for more than that. And I do remember reading that because he's always struggled with alcoholism and drug abuse, that he did start the Perry House, which is a men's sober living facility, which I think is amazing that he did, that he kind of took his struggles to help other men. So I think, it's important that he gets remembered for that as well. Obviously, he's best known for Friends. I love his character, but I just think the fact that he was able to do that, take his fame, take his struggles, and use that for something good is just truly amazing. Well, I know I don't know him personally, and there are people who say, why are you so upset if it's someone you don't actually know? I still think it does matter because if there's someone that you've watched for such a long time, someone you've admired, and someone that's really kind of iconic, I think it's really sad to lose that just because you never know what kind of great things they could have kept accomplishing if they had continued on living. So I don't know. I just think it's sad. While it may not be the same as someone I personally know, it is really sad. I'd love to know your thoughts below on if Friends was a big part of your life and if you are super sad as well about Matthew Perry's passing. But anyway, I don't want this to be a sad video, so let me go ahead and continue on with my process, and then I'll be back in a little bit. Once I finished with my second layer of Nirvana, I went ahead and gave it a full cure for 60 seconds because it is a darker color. I wanted to be sure it cured fully. And now before I move on to my glitter, I want to make sure I'm encapsulating my solid so I don't get any stray glitters. But because I'm using gel method, I'm going to be using gel base and gel top coat to encapsulate rather than clear dip powder, because clear dip powder really doesn't play nicely with gels. So I'm applying a thin even layer of gel base to my nails. I'm going to cure that for 30 seconds, and then I will go in with a layer of gel top coat, cure that for 60 seconds, and then I can file and buff. And the reason I use gel base first is because I don't want my gel top coat to peel off on me while I'm filing and buffing, so it needs something to grip to. So if you don't feel like you need the layer of gel top coat, you could always do your layer of gel base, cure it for 30 seconds, wipe off the tacky layer, and then just do a light buff. But I always like to do just a little bit more, so I use the gel base and gel top coat. It's just a matter of what your preference is. I'm going to be using Detour next, which is a mixture of small to fine glitters. So they are smaller pieces, but I always want to make sure that they are laying down flat before they either dry or I cure them, in this case curing, because I'm using gels. So I put on a finger cot, and these are like a big pack that I get off of Amazon. You could also use like a baggie or a piece of tape, whatever, but you want to make sure that you're not touching the wet gel with your finger. So normally when I'm using dip base, I just press down glitters with my finger, but because I've got gel base, I don't want to touch the gel, which is why I'm using the finger cot. That way I can press down the glitters without exposing my skin to that uncured gel. Luckily, they're smaller glitter pieces, so I don't really have to worry too much about glitter pieces sticking up because they are smaller, but I still want to make sure I press them down just in case. So I applied my layer of gel base, and then now I am pouring over my glitter into my Chaos Gemerald. So you can see I didn't pick up a lot of pieces, but that's completely fine. And then once I've got that poured over, I'm going to make sure to clean up my cuticle area, make sure I don't have any excess gel on my skin. And then if there are any glitters that are kind of like half hanging on my nail, half not, I'll just let those fall off. And then I'm just going to very, very gently lay my finger into the glitter just to pick up any additional pieces if I can. And then the finger with the cot, I'm going to go ahead and just gently press down. You want to be careful because your gel base is wet, so you don't want to move around the glitters. You just want to make sure that they're pressed down. So once I'm comfortable with where they're at, I'm going to go ahead and give it a full cure for 30 seconds. For my second layer, I want to make sure that I get good glitter coverage, so I'm going to use my chunky glitter method. So I poured the rest of my glitter into my Chaos Gemerald, and I shook it just to bring the larger glitter pieces to the surface. Because the larger glitter pieces are heavier, they tend to sink, and I want to make sure that I bring them to the surface so that I can pick up more of them once I dip. So now I'm applying a thin, even layer of gel base to my entire nail, and then once I have the coverage I want, once I have everything covered, I'm going to turn my hand upside down, and I'm just going to gently lay it into the glitter where I feel like there's the most amount of glitter in that area. And I say gently because you don't want to shove your hand down. Your gel base is wet and you don't want to displace it, so you have to be very careful when you do this. After I've laid my finger in the glitter, I'm going to use my finger that has the finger cot on it, and I'm going to start pressing down the glitters and kind of pushing in any of the glitters around the sides that may be sticking up to get them more on my nail. And I want to make sure that these glitters are laying flat because I don't want to risk filing through them. They're going to be encapsulated with some gel base and gel top coat, but I don't find that it's as protective as clear dip powder. So I really want to make sure everything is flat, because if you file through a colored glitter, most of them, the middle is silver, and that's really not the look I'm going for with this mani. So I want to make sure to protect these glitters. I went ahead and encapsulated my glitter and filed and buffed off camera. So here's how it's looking. So now we're going to get into stamping. So I was super excited about this plate. So this is from a company called Manitude. They make really cool, unique plates. This plate is called Supposably, and I was so excited when they released a Friends themed plate. Obviously, I was hoping I'd use it for happier reasons, but I'm still really happy I have it. So I mentioned before, if you knew the purple, you probably guessed where I'm going with this. So I am doing the gold picture frame around the peephole on Monica and Rachel's purple door. So that's why I have purple on my thumb and my not index finger, pinky. So on my thumb, I'm going to stamp the gold picture frame. So I've got this gold stamping polish from Clear Jelly Stamper. I picked up the image, I cleaned up the stamper, and now I'm just going to place that on my nail. It doesn't show up as well as I had hoped it would. Like, it's kind of hard to see. I'm kind of thinking I maybe should have tried like a layer of white, like stamped it in white first and then stamped the gold on top. And then maybe it would have stood out a little bit more. But either way, I'm still happy with the way it turned out. I was trying to keep this mani to iconic images that I think of when I think of Friends. So obviously the purple door with the gold picture frame is definitely one of them. This next one I'm working on is the Central Perk symbol. And I actually chose this one just because I feel like the teal that Nirvana is kind of went well with the logo of Central Perk, just because it does have green on there. I did actually try to fill in the letters because I know like Central is red and then Perk has the green around it. But these letters were so tiny, I gave up. I mean, I was going to do some reverse stamping, but it was super difficult because I could barely read the letters. I do eventually want to do some reverse stamping in some videos, but this definitely is not the video, not today. So I did want something tacky for my stamping image to adhere to, so I just used some sticky base coat, and this is from Maniology. And it's really finding that sweet spot. So you don't want to stamp when it's super wet, but when it's completely dry, it's no longer tacky. So I'm just waiting till it starts looking a little bit matte, and then I know I'll be ready to stamp on the image. So that's over in the corner. I'm just letting that image sit until I get to that sweet spot on my sticky base coat. There were a couple images of Chandler on the plate, so of course I had to use one of them. And I loved that they had one of Chandler in college with his like flock of seagull hairstyle. So I had to use that one because that always cracked me up. I love that image so much. I had a hard time figuring out what I wanted to be my final image, but I did notice that there was a duck on the plate, and who doesn't love the chick and the duck? So I decided that would go on my pinky. Now I will say it's only the duck on my pinky because I think next to it, it's supposed to be the chick, but it doesn't really look like a chick to me, so I decided just to leave it as the duck. Once I finished stamping, I went ahead and applied my gel base and gel top coat, and now I'm ready to rehydrate my cuticles. So I'm using my Scales of Mermaid cuticle oil. This is in one of her newest scent, What's Gourd. And I am super excited to say that I have officially joined the Scales of a Mermaid ambassador team, and I can't tell you how thrilled I am. If you've been around, you know my love for this company and all the products she makes, so I am thrilled. And you can now use my ambassador code Genie10 to save 10% off your orders. And here we are with the finished look. What do you think? I had so much fun creating this Friends themed mani, and I am so glad I finally got to use this stamping plate because I had it on the side waiting to finish up my Halloween manis. I love the stamping plates that Manitude creates. They do a lot of pop culture, a lot of unique stamping plates, and they are super easy to use. Like for my stamping plates, I always love Maniology, Clear Jelly Stamper, and Manitude. Those are like my top three go-to plates where I never have difficulties picking up images. I've bought plates before, like random plates from Amazon and things like that, where it is a pain to get the image, but I never struggle with these plates. If you found this video helpful and enjoyed it, I'd appreciate it if you gave this video a thumbs up. It lets me know to continue creating content like this, and it also helps YouTube recommend me to others, which helps grow my channel. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing. I upload content every Monday and Thursday at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. As always, I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.